Hey, thanks for watching this short series, which is called That's What Shakespeare Said, where we're going to take a look at idioms that Shakespeare created that are still with us today. So just in case you don't know what an idiom is, I'm not going to assume that, but just in case, it is a common saying that a culture or society recognizes that doesn't mean exactly what it says word for word, but everyone in the culture over time has picked up that it has kind of certain connotations or meaning. Easiest one I can think of off the top of my head would be like raining cats and dogs. You can't take that literally. We know that it doesn't rain cats and dogs, but because of the culture, we have come to realize that that means it is pouring rain. Now, the Oxford English Dictionary credits William Shakespeare with coming up with over 3,000 words in the English language that are still used today. Now, some of these words are combined into phrases or idioms that you will hear here and there as you kind of have more experiences. That's the thing with idioms. You don't necessarily know one when you first hear it. The longer you live, the more you watch, the more you read, the more you listen to music, the more idioms you pick up and become aware of. So as I go through these, just because you haven't heard one of them before doesn't mean that they aren't popular or have not been popular or aren't really a saying in the culture. So we're going to go through some. I will give you an idiom, the actual play that it came from, and maybe the quote from the play, the definition of what it means, and then I'll actually use it as an example. And we will start to pick up and collect and know some of these idioms that Shakespeare developed in his works. So let's get started. All right, number one is as merry as the day is long, and that comes from Much Ado About Nothing. And here's the quote: "By my Christendom, so I were out of prison and kept sheep, I should be as merry as the day is long." This idiom means to be happy or carefree. So here's an example of that. "The summer I graduated and had no job, I was merry as the day is long, and then college started and my whole world came crashing down." All right, so you get a feeling for that it's being up, you're excited, you're feeling free. It's a positive thing to be as merry as the day is long. Number two is bated breath from The Merchant of Venice. And here's the quote from that. "Or shall I bend low and in a bondsman key, with bated breath and whispering humbleness say this, Fair sir, you spit on me Wednesday last." Now, bated is simply a shortened form of the word abated. And that's part of the way that Shakespeare created words. He would shorten some words. He would use some words that were once a noun as an adjective and vice versa. And so sometimes words would come out of kind of transforming or morphing an original word into something else. So abated means to reduce or to lessen. So bated breath is breathing that is subdued because of some sort of emotion or difficulty. So here's an example. "After the amazing promposal, he waited with bated breath to hear whether she would go with him, but she kicked him to the curb." Oh, sad story. Now, number three is be all end all. That's from Macbeth. And here's the quote from when Macbeth is considering the assassination of King Duncan. "If it were done when 'tis done, then 'twere well it were done quickly. If the assassination could trammel up the consequence and catch with his surcease success, that but this blow might be the be all and the end all." So that simply means the whole thing, kind of the final last word, something that's entirely necessary so it eliminates the need for an alternative. So the idea would be Californians think In-N-Out Burger is the be-all, end-all fast food burger restaurant, which is true, so deal. All right, the be-all, end-all is the final authority or the final word. Number four, Brave New World from The Tempest. Here's what Miranda says in that play. "Oh, wonder how many goodly creatures are there, how beauteous mankind is. Oh, brave new world that has such people in it." So Brave New World is kind of a new and hopeful period of history that is going to have some major repercussions or changes in society. It's a world of possibility awaiting. Now, the way most people might know this saying is from the 1932 novel by Aldous Huxley, which is Brave New World. And he uses this phrase ironically, right, because the dystopia described in the novel is not hopeful at all, which is the original meaning of this phrase. So Aldous Huxley turned it on its head and used it to kind of mean the opposite. So here is an example. With the advent of the internet, it was a brave new world. Number 5 is break the ice, and that's from The Taming of the Shrew. Tranio says this: "If it be so, sir, that you are the man must stead us all, and me amongst the rest, and if you break the ice, and do this feat, achieve the elder, set the younger free." So this is an attempt to relieve the awkwardness and the tension of first meeting someone. And it's actually a pretty popular one. Most people have heard of it because it's the idea of, when you first go on a date or start talking to somebody, you don't really know each other, so things seem sort of awkward. So you might have a joke or a line or something that will break the ice. So here's an example. In order to break the ice, he always used a cheesy pickup line like, "I'm not a photographer, but I can picture you and me together." Don't use that. Number 6, the last idiom of this video, is brevity is the soul of wit, and that comes from Hamlet. Lord Polonius: "Since brevity is the soul of wit, and tediousness the limbs and outward flourishes, I will be brief. Your noble son is mad. Mad call I it, for to define true madness, what it's but to be nothing else but mad." And that simply means that brevity is the soul of wit. The funniest or wittiest statements are short and to the point, right? Keeping something short can sound wiser or wittier or even funnier, which is why I like puns so much, because they're usually short and to the point and the highest form of humor. Here's an example. The best storytellers keep in mind that brevity is the soul of wit. They don't keep us waiting for the point too long. So those are our first 6 idioms that we're going to cover in this series. That's what Shakespeare said. In the meantime, before you end this, if you could subscribe to the channel, that would be amazing. Here's a playlist and another one and another one. And the next video will be up shortly. And hopefully we'll get some more idioms under our belt. That's an idiom too.